Hey everybody, so welcome to Music Club. I just wanted to clarify what I was talking about with the E minor chord so that you can see it a little better. Alright, so when we have chords, they exist in things called triads. So an E minor chord starts out with the root, meaning the bottom note, and the chord is an E. And the bottom line of this is an E. I could also use the space here if I wanted to, and it would just be in a different register. It would be higher, an octave higher. Let me click that. Now if I want to make the chord right in the same spot, I'm going to go up not to the space but to the line above that. So that's a G. And notice on the keyboard it's highlighting what the notes that I put. And then I'm going to go up to the next line again. So that would be a B. So EGB is the chord, the triad of chord that make up the E chord. So here's an E. Let me just move this over a little bit so you can see it. So E, G, and B. So here's what I mean by root, third, and fifth. So if this here is the first chord, this is the E, and the way we know that is, you notice that the black keys have a pattern: 2, then 3, then 2, then 3, then 2, and it continues. If I move left or right, you can see it's always in that pattern: 2, then 3, then 2, then 3. So what happens is where the 2 are, right in between, that's a D note. So that D note tells us where to start. And if you remember, there are 7 notes in music, and then they just repeat each other, just get higher and higher. So that would be A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, right? So if this is the D, I could count backwards: D, C, B, A to get to my A. And you see when I hover over it, it's telling me what it is. There's a B, a C, a D. Notice B goes from 3 to C is 4. And that's because we start our scales on C. Key of C means no sharps or no flats, but we'll talk more about that later. So now we're going to go from the C. If this is D, then I've got E, F, G, A, B, right? So the chord is E, G, and B. So now what makes it a major or minor chord is the number of steps that it takes to get to the next note. So if I'm starting on the first, which is our root position, which is our E, then I count 1, 2, 3, that will be 3 steps to get to the third, right? This is the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, right? The chord is made up of the first, the third, and the fifth. So 1, 2, 3, right? Then going from the third to the fifth, I've got to take 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. So when you have 3 steps on the bottom, from the first to the third, and then 4 steps on the top, that's called a minor chord. That's what makes that an E minor. So therefore, if we wanted to make this an E major, what we would have to do is we'd have to take that E note, highlight it, and what we need to do is actually just bring it up 1/2 step. So now it has got a sharp on that note. So this is an E major chord. So E, G sharp. G sharp also could be said as A flat, but we tend to use the word sharp when we're doing this. So now it's 4 steps. Watch: 1 to here, 2, 3, 4. So from the first to the third, the root to the third is 4, and then from the third to the fifth is 1, 2, 3 steps. That's the way major chords are built. So the fact that in the natural state, without any sharps or flats, that E chord is always going to be an E minor. So the chord that they were teaching in the guitar lesson was the E minor. So that's why I was explaining that. I think this helps clarify it for some people. So that's what I was talking about in that lesson. In the lesson about the ukulele, they started out with a G7 chord. So let's take a look at that for a second. So I just want to, let's turn this off, and we're going to just delete those notes, and we're going to start again. So it was a G7 chord. So let's start with a G. The G is the second line from the bottom. So when you click on this, that's how you create notes. So we're going to take our notes, and let's make it sustain longer. I'm going to use whole notes. Doesn't really matter, but I'm going to put a whole note in there on the G. So then the next note up would be the third. That would be the B. So G and B, notice it's the same two notes as the third and the fifth in the E minor. That's why they work well together. And here it's a D. So instead of the E, we're on a D. So that would be a G chord, right? And that happens to be a G major chord, because if we count the steps here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, right? Now to make it a G7th, we need to add this note. So now we have a first, or a root note, our third, our fifth, and our seventh. And that's what makes it a G7th. All right, so the G7th looks like these four notes. This is a G, this is a B, this is a D, remember it's between the two that are together, and this is our F note. All right, so that's the lesson I gave. In video it's a little bit shorter and maybe makes a little more sense because you can see the piano keyboard. So I realized because my headphones were plugged into the computer, you were unable to hear those chords play. So what I did was I rewrote them as half notes so they play a little longer so that you can hear them. So first we're going to play that A minor, which is without the sharps and flats. Remember it was 3 steps and then 4 steps. It's going to then play the A, which was the third. We raised it a half step by putting a sharp on it, so that what we have here is 4 steps on the bottom and 3 steps on the top, which is a major chord. You don't have to write major when you're notating. So it's an A minor chord, it's an A major if you don't have anything written with it. This is a G major chord, and we looked at that. And then we added the 7th note to that, which is the F, to make it a G7, so you can hear the different sounds. So just if I click on this now, hopefully you'll be able to hear it. So here we go. Ready? All right, so you hear the different sounds of the different chords. So the A minor and the A are very similar. What the A is a much brighter sounding chord. Let's stop that there. And the A minor has sort of a sadder sound. Minor chords, by having that third on the bottom, produce what sounds to most people like a sadder sound. You hear that? Let's play the A minor again. Now let's play the A. It's a brighter, happier sound. The G is a very consonant chord, meaning it sounds good, the notes sound good together. By adding the F, the 7th note, it gives it a little bit of dissonance, meaning that it gives it a little bit of a rougher sound. So the G sounds pretty bright and sounds good together. But the G7, it also still sounds good together, but by having that 2 notes that are only 1 apart, because remember after F we would go to G, again, having the 2 notes that are only 1 apart, that definitely makes it sound just a little crunchier, a little rougher. You hear that little bit of dissonance in there? So that's what we're talking about. All right, let me know what you think of any of the lessons and tell me what you're interested in me posting.